Once upon a time, there was a man and a woman who longed to have a child. After many years, the woman finally became pregnant, and both the man and the woman were overjoyed. Outside their tiny home, a beautiful garden was surrounded by a great wall and can be seen outside their window. This garden belonged to a powerful and scary enchantress. The woman soon became ill and greedily desired to eat the special vegetable growing in the enchantress's garden. The man decided to sneak in and take some of the vegetable to bring to his wife. However, he was caught by the enchantress. For fear of his fate, he begged to be forgiven. The enchantress made a deal with him that if he chose to continue to bring this vegetable to his ailing wife, he must forfeit his soon-to-be-born child. In a panic, the husband agreed, and after the child was born, the enchantress came to collect. Over the years, the enchantress cared for the child and named her Rapunzel. For fear of losing Rapunzel to the outside world, the enchantress locked Rapunzel away in a very high tower with no stairs or ladders to reach. One day, a prince was wandering the forest and heard a beautiful song in the air. He followed it towards a hidden tower. He then saw an enchantress call up to the tower, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And lo and behold, the longest wave of hair he had ever seen fell to the ground, and the enchantress used it to climb the tower. Overwhelmed by his curiosity, the prince returned the next day and called up to the tower. Once he reached the top of the tower, he found the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. He spoke to the girl and told her of the world outside the tower. Rapunzel fell for the prince and his gentlemanly ways and wished to leave with him. However, there was no way for her to get down. The prince told Rapunzel that he would return with a way for her to lower herself from the tower. Now the enchantress saw this, and after the prince left, scolded Rapunzel, cutting off her long hair, and said, "After all I've done for you, you chose to betray my kindness? I exile you to a place where no one will find you with their own eyes." And with that, Rapunzel was taken from the tower and hidden away. When the prince returned, he climbed up and was surprised to see not Rapunzel, but the enchantress there. The enchantress stood up and screamed, "Your greed has drawn you to covet my daughter. May your eyes be pierced so as to never see her again." And just then a powerful wind blew the prince out of the window, and he fell onto a bed of thorn roses that blinded him. He continued to wander aimlessly, without sight, searching for Rapunzel. After a long search, he heard a familiar song and followed that voice. As he drew closer, Rapunzel recognized the prince. She ran to him and threw her arms around him, and cried tears of joy to finally be able to see him again. Her tears fell upon his eyes, opening the prince's eyes once again so that he could see. They made their way back to the kingdom, banished the enchantress, and lived happily ever after. Now, continuing on with 3D month, let's talk about a 3D animated film, shall we? 3D movies that seem to really work the best, in my opinion, are movies that are animated. Now, with animated films, especially with a lot of the current ones, there is already a three-dimensional look to the animated films compared to what we used to see back in the 90s and even earlier on when they were all 2D. In reality, there doesn't need to be filming of the film in a 3D setting, because with the computer technology, what you're able to do is set the movie as itself as a 3D, and then add on more texture and whatever else you need to get that the effect that you need for the 3D effect. Now, live action movies, however, there are times where you have to decide what you want to have in 3D and how that's going to affect the movie. Animated films don't need to do that because what you're already trying to do is draw them into the film itself. Now, have you noticed that a lot of 3D films have some sort of CG somewhere in the film? Some examples are Harry Potter, Avatar, the most recent Chronicles of Narnia, Tron Legacy, Clash of the Titans, Beowulf. That's just to name a few. But CG animation works better that way when it comes to 3D. Now this leads us to Tangled, Disney's 50th animated fairy tale and or musical full-length film. Now, if you haven't realized from the opening story, Tangled is Disney's retitling of the Grimm's Brothers fairy tale Rapunzel. Here is Disney's take on another fairy tale, Rapunzel's story. Oh, music, please unveil a lizard thief and horse, a princess locked away, a wicked mother's greed, free to escape one day, be free one day. Now, a lot can be said about Disney's interpretation and reimagining of one of the Grimm's Brothers fairy tales, but when have they been entirely accurate? Disney always tries to add more excitement and a more family-friendly feeling to their fairy tales, and Tangled is no exception. Now, what separates Tangled from the original Rapunzel is first off the origins of Rapunzel and the secret she holds. Secondly, the hero of the film isn't a prince, but a thief named Flynn Rider. Now, his personality kind of reminds me of a cross between about Robin Hood and a little bit of Aladdin in him. Now, Rapunzel is voiced by the lovely and talented Mandy Moore, while Flynn is voiced by Zachary Levi from the show Chuck. Alan Menken returns again to score a Disney musical and continues to produce memorable music moments, just like he did in Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Newsies, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Enchanted, and so on. Now, the visuals are stunning, especially for a more modern CG animated fairy tale film. I loved how the official trailer used scenes not in the movie. However, I'll let you figure out which ones those are. Now, the 3D fit pretty well in this film, however, it's got an unfair advantage of being an animated film. The 3D for this film wasn't actually necessary for the experience, but with some of the action scenes as well as the enchanting, magical scenes, it made you feel as though you were part of a Disney stage production at Disney World, or even on Broadway. All in all, I think this is a great family film, and it is worth the watch. Now, if someone could please explain to me why this film was given a PG rating compared to the G ratings that all the previous animated fairy tale films Disney made in the past, I would really appreciate it, because I don't get it. Well, that's 2 down, 1 more to go on 3D month. This is the movie professor saying, farewell everyone, till next we meet again. Class, you are dismissed. One more 3D film I'll explain.